So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna go through every single map that is in Overwatch 2, okay? And we're gonna be ranking them all in a tier list format. I'll be giving them a rating from F tier all the way to S tier. So it goes F, D, C, B, A, S. I forgot what came after C. I'm stupid. This map here is Busan, okay? Control in general is one of my favorite game types. This map in particular, I like it more during the daytime. And there's actually 3 parts to this map, and we're gonna have to go over each part. This section of Busan is actually one of my favorite parts. I like that you can fight on here. If you're Hammond, you can kind of spin around forever on this turtle thing and like contest, which is really fun. I like that you can fight up here. You can kind of like have a pretty good advantage over here and like shoot people from a distance. This is the second part. This is actually genuinely my favorite part of Busan. I feel like every aspect of this part of the map is used. You have this area here, which is like where the point is, but you end up fighting over here as well just to try to like heal. There's a little health pack here. Sometimes you can get booped into the train. Yo, train, where you at? Oh, there you go. The spawn point area is pretty cool because it gives you a couple options. You can either go down straight towards the main like area over here. This is where like majority of the fighting goes, but you can end up flanking to the right into the point. And I really like that about this map because it gives you a couple options. You can't really get spawn camped as aggressively like other maps. Even this area on the right here, which seems like you wouldn't be using it as much, it ends up being used a lot. Like you see Sojourns and Soldier 76 is like shooting up here. Widowmakers are shooting up here. They're getting like a pick every now and then. You can even fight on top of here. This is the third part of Busan. This part is really fun. It's really indoors. This is like a really strong Reinhardt spot. You end up 99% of the time fighting over here. Like there's a lot of at this choke point up here, trying to take the high ground. You're fighting people across. And this point is actually pretty dynamic because it has cover, but the cover goes away, which does add a little bit of flair to it. Oh yeah, also like you have this side of the map. So there's also this side of the map that I feel like it's not used as often, but you still can get booped here. So if you're trying to run away from like a Lucio, they'll boop you. So they'll like boop you. And it's just like another flanking route that you can have as well. But like I don't feel like this side of the map is used as much. So for that reason, it's not as dynamic of a map. But there's also this underground part that I feel like barely gets used, but sometimes if you didn't know, you can like fall into this hole. You can fall into this hole here, which can maybe be an escape option if you're like a healer and stuff. But because the majority of this like area of the map isn't used that much, I don't really think it's that strong of a map. But I do enjoy fighting on this a little bit more than most people. Overall, Busan, our first map to be ranked, I think I would give Busan I think I would put it in B tier. Okay? Now arriving at ILIOS. So this is actually one of the best maps in this game. This 1/3 of ILIOS is amazing. I love fighting on here. There's multiple routes that are always being used. So you either fight over here on the left, which is like a good position. It gives you cover. Supports can be there as well. You can fight here, which is where the health pack is. A lot of tanks can end up holding this position, grabbing a health pack and still winning a fight. But you have to watch out for being booped. So ILIOS is the boot map, like by far. This is also a really strong Widowmaker map. So Widowmakers can play up here, get some nice snipes. Widowmaker can play up here and get some nice snipes. You have a lot of openings as a Widowmaker main, which makes it a little bit annoying to play as because I think playing as Widowmaker is fun, but losing to Widowmaker is like terrible. I really like this. Even when you're like getting spawn camped, like I feel like you have a lot more cover and a lot more options. Like say the team's like all the way out here, like you can just play like around stuff and go around different routes, climb different things, use your verticality. Yeah, I think the ruins is such a solid part of ILIOS. Also, it just looks beautiful. I mean, just look at the colors and everything, man. So this is ILIOS. This is like the city and stuff, right? This part of ILIOS is I also really enjoy. This one also feels very dynamic. You're over here, like when you're on point, it's very enclosed, so it makes a lot of different characters a lot better. Widowmaker's not as strong on this map, but still can be used. And instead, characters like Pharah are really strong. Lucio, any character that can boop is super strong because you can get booped right off here. And like you can get booped on like any edge and stuff, right? You have a couple options. You can't really, like, I feel like you have a couple options where you can go. A lot of times you're going to end up going through here where the main health pack is, but your like soldiers or your sojourns can climb up here. And a lot of times like the first fight ends up being here. Everyone's like fighting here around this like little area trying to get the first kill because the point's not even on yet. And then you start fighting on point, you know? I think ILIOS Lighthouse is really good too. So far, ILIOS has been blowing me away. Really beautiful map overall. Okay, here we are, ILIOS Well, one of the most iconic maps in this whole game. Really beautiful like verticality on this map. Pharah is so strong here. This well right here is what makes it so dynamic. You're on a point where you could think you're safe. Out of nowhere, you're getting booped by a Lucio. You have this area over here where the health pack is, this is where a lot of times supports are playing either here or they're playing back there. There's a high ground that some people can use, but it's not that strong of a high ground, so you're not going to see people getting too much value at this high ground. There is also this high ground, which is not as accessible to most characters. This map though, I do feel like you get spawn camped a lot more on. So far, all of ILIOS, all 3 pieces of them combined make probably one of the best and most dynamic maps in the entire game. As a map, like how it plays and stuff, I do feel like ILIOS overall. Do you hear that? The angel noises? S plus. Okay, next map. The first part of Lijiang Tower is the night market. Lijiang Tower night market. Nice. Night market is so cool. It has all these really cool signs and stuff. You got the octopus. You got Octopus Daddy right here. You end up, this map is just so good. You could fight up top if you need to like start trying to get a pick here. You can fight, this is like the main area that 99% of the fights are gonna happen. And this point is also like a boop heaven, you know? Yeah, there's like different like places you can go. You can make teleporters with Symmetra. That's one of the plays that I love doing. I think Symmetra is amazing on Lijiang Tower in general, and I love playing Symmetra. But you can like teleport into this and then just get right into the point. It's super fun. This part of Lijiang is really strong. I like this one a lot. Okay, now we're on the second part. This is the sanctuary or something. I forget what it's called. But you get this beautiful tower. Oh, it's just called tower. It's the actual tower. It's the actual Lijiang Tower. So this map is also like a boops heaven because you can. This bridge is so dangerous. You get booped like immediately out of spawn. You gotta watch out. You gotta watch out for pharaohs and stuff immediately out of spawn because this literally happens all the time. You end up fighting here a lot. A lot of like the more flankers, like or like soldiers and stuff, will be fighting over here trying to like get a pick. And if you're afraid of being booped, you can also go this way, which is a little bit safer for moving, but a little more close quarters. So if like a Junkrat's on their team, you're gonna get destroyed over here because you're kind of in like this area that's super enclosed and stuff, you know. And then of course the point. The point is super interesting. It has this big pillar in the middle with walls, so you can like contest on point pretty easily. Like you can literally be hiding from enemies. Hiding for enemy teams like with ease here, you know? I feel like a lot of other maps don't have that. Here is my favorite part of Lijiang Tower because I get to use Reinhardt on, like when I'm a tank. This is such a good Rein map. A lot of the time, like the left side, you're not really going to use the left side that much, but it is super solid for flanking. It has like the cool little spacesuits and stuff. Junkrat's incredible on this map. Junkrat is literally a menace to society on this map. You can end up fighting in the beginning. A lot of times you're going to be fighting over here, trying to just like get control of this high ground area, and then you eventually find a point. The point is very dynamic. Actually, the point's super simple. Just a pillar in the middle with a couple cover on both sides, and this cover is really good for supports to be on and stuff. Or supports end up playing like a little bit more back here. And then if you really want to be like the Widowmaker or Soldier or Sojourn, you got your Sojourno, you got your Soldier roll. You come up here. It's I got you in my sights. Blah, 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 blah. Like this is a very strong position to be on, but it's also, you know, boopable. Overall, Lijiang Tower. God, I really enjoy Night Market. I really enjoy... The tower is actually probably my least favorite one. I do like it for Symmetra, but I don't think it's as strong of a map compared to the other two parts. I would say that this is a solid A+. Or just... You know what? I think this is a solid S. I think this is a solid S. Not S+, just an S tier map, okay? So this is Nepal. Look at this. Look at this map. A lot of times you run Reinhardt or Zarya or something, but you usually fight up top here because it's like the high ground area. So you end up like having people like just trying to control this area right here. And whatever team ends up winning this fight, they'll just go into point. Supports will probably play back a little bit. But yeah, this point ends up being a really solid point for Mei, Reaper, because it's a lot more enclosed. You got this is one of the few points that has cover. Like in terms of like if people are coming in, you have time to see them coming in. You can put a Mei wall up and trap like enemies and stuff. Yeah, I feel like this is one of the few maps where like literally every hero is viable in some way. You can run basically everything on this map, which makes this part of Nepal really good. It also feels like majority of the area is used because you end up finding up top here. You end up trying to run away to this health pack or running away to get heals over there. You end up, I think the least used part ends up being this side over here, which I feel like a lot of people forget is even an option. But because barely any characters can go this way. But some characters have the ability to either like fly across or like dash across or sprint across, or if they have really good jumps, they can get to the top. Really solid section of Nepal. I think that is a good place in Nepal. Let's go to the next section of it. This part of Nepal is really fun if you're a Reinhardt main as well. This is definitely a Rein. In my opinion, I feel like Reinhardt's really good here. Zarya is also really good here. Dive can be good here as well, but because the actual point has this much of like chokes, if that makes sense. Holding up one Reinhardt shield can legitimately protect your whole squad from being shot. So 99% of the time, your team is going to be going in through this main area here. This map is also, the reason why I love this map for Reinhardt is because like you have this little spot here. A lot of times they don't look this way. They don't look this way, and then you can just like shatter them right here. It's a pretty fun map. I don't know if I love it as much as the previous section of Nepal, but I do enjoy it. Oh, I love this part of Nepal. This has this big old hole down here. You see this hole? You can expect to be booped. Yeah, you can expect to be booped here, man. It's crazy. A lot of times when you're fighting in here, this actually can one of the few maps that can be held by the enemy team. Like here, the enemy team can actually hold here, end up fighting and stuff. But thankfully there's a couple alternate routes, but the alternate routes aren't that strong. So that's one of the problems with this map, which does make it a little bit annoying to get if you're getting spawn camped and stuff, especially like this left side here. You can enter through this left side. So it ends up becoming this thing where you really have to win your fights at this main choke point to get in. Because once you're in, this map is a little bit more open and stuff. You end up fighting a lot of soldier mains and stuff, or sojourn mains. They'll end up fighting over here. Widows and stuff. It's a nice high ground. You can shoot from point. You got decent cover. Overall, Nepal, I would probably put Nepal in like B+, low A tier, like A-. I think A- is fair. I think it looks really good. I think it plays pretty well overall. There's just some times where you can get really steamrolled and stomped. Okay, so this is the library. This is the Oasis library. It has a lot of cool lore going on to it. There's like books and stuff that can be shot. Yeah, most of this map ends up being utilized. You have this main choke point here on the point that some people end up fighting on. A lot of the time though, you'll see like Pharahs, soldiers, people that with good range and stuff, they'll fight up here. There's also this middle area here that's a hole that I don't feel like is booped. It's not used as often to be booped. And if you want to get back up, it's not that hard. You just have to climb this staircase, but it does slow you down a bit, right? So the underground area is really underutilized on this part of the map, you know? The library, it's not bad per se, but it's good. Like it's decent. It plays well. I'm not going to pretend that I don't enjoy playing on this map. Okay, so this part of the map here, I actually really don't like this section of the map. I think this section of the map ends up being really annoying to fight on. It's just not much cover going on here either. People can hold if people can really hold the high ground over here and like be completely uncontested unless you're running dive and stuff, right? Because the only way up to this high ground without dive is the staircase, and it's pretty easy to defend the staircase, you know? You can put traps, you can put a billion things. And on top of that, you have sections of this map that are never used. I bet some of you didn't realize that there's this whole section over here. Like no one ever goes to the left side of this map, you know? It's not that good. Now we're on this like last section. This part of Oasis, I'm not gonna lie to you, I feel like you need to run dive on this because it's so vertical, right? Like you don't have to run dive, you could run any tank and I think you'll be fine in like the lower ranks, but in the end, like a good player can end up holding this high ground over here, which is a pretty solid high ground because yes, there is this little like bouncy pad to it, but if you can hold this high ground and stop people from coming in, like, I think it's a really strong place to be. This is one of the biggest points for control because, like, if you want to just go right into the point, you're going to fight here. And there's not really a strong choke for, like, a Reinhardt to just block because, like, it doesn't block the full choke and stuff. So dive, that's what I'm saying. Dive becomes a lot more strong on this particular map. Some players can fight up here, which is it's not that strong of a position, but it can be if you're pocketed correctly and stuff. I will say, though, one of my favorite parts about this map are the cars. You can get hit by these, like, Teslas and instant die. Dodging, look at that. Well, Oasis overall, I like the library. I don't really like the other 2 points as much as the library. So if I were to rank them all, I would probably put Oasis in like C+. So this is an escort map. I tend to really like escort maps in general. I think payload is really fun. This initial area here has a lot of places that you're never going to use. Like, I mean, sometimes you might be over here trying to do a little flank action just to try to get a pick on people hiding up there because a lot of the enemies are going to end up fighting up here. But yeah, I like the payload. I like that it's a race car and stuff. It's pretty cool. You end up in this choke a lot. Actually, I feel like this is one of the easier maps to push. I think it's very difficult to defend. This section of Circuit Royale is a little bit difficult to defend. So if you end up getting pushed on really aggressively all the way to the next point, which is over here, don't feel bad. It happens to everybody. There's not much cover. There's not much of an obvious position to hold because if they get past this choke point right here, because this is the easiest part to hold, but if they get past that, I think it's pretty much over. When you're pushing the cart, you go all the way up this like road here, and there's a couple options you have for like to still flank and stuff, and there's also this underground area that I don't think people realize. Not a lot of people realize you have the staircase here that can take you to the top. You only have to push it around one little loop, and then the end is right here. If you get to this point, you end up in probably the best part about Circuit Royale, which is the hotel. This hotel is the easiest to defend in my opinion. It has a lot more cover and a lot more different areas you can go. You have a lot of options of which way you can go. I think most characters are pretty strong on this point, with the exception of maybe Pharah at the end because it's not much verticality. Overall, Circuit Royale, I don't love it as much as some of the original escort maps. So I would say like B tier. We're going to Dorado, ladies and gentlemen. This map has a very clear section of where you're supposed to defend. You can either defend up top here, but you have to watch out for flankers coming in from behind. This part here is pretty cool to fight, but a good amount of time they'll push past this point and then end up at this choke. Very rarely you'll end up using this side of the map. It is an option, but it's very rare. But if you manage to push it past the fountain here, which like I said, there's a lot more cover in this section of the map, so I do think this is a lot easier to defend. This is the section where it feels a lot more vertical. You definitely need like dive characters because if you have characters up here just sniping from above with the pocket mercy and stuff, and you don't have your own like way to kill them, you're gonna want like a dive character and stuff because this area here is so annoying. It's just a very high ground oriented map. It's this section of the map is dive only. The first section not dive. The second section you need to run dive. It's just so much more vertical than the other part. And in the last section, it loses its beautiful theme of the Mexican Dorado look, but in exchange you get this like factory. You'll see characters camp up here and like fight because it's a really solid high ground. You can see basically everything. Thankfully, there's routes you can take to get to that point, but it's not as easy to get to. Teams are rarely fighting in this section, but they can be. And this is one of the few maps where if you're getting steamrolled, you can get spawn camped really badly here. Like teams can spawn camp you like crazy at the end here. I don't love this final section here as much as the other parts of Dorado, and I really don't like this middle section here. I think this middle section here can be like a steamroll. Overall, though, I think like aesthetically, I do love this map. It's a classic, but I don't want to let the fact that it's a classic ruin my bias. So I would still probably put it in like A-. I think A- is fair for Dorado. Havana's initial colors are so dynamic, like this pinks and stuff, right? This mural on the side. There's a little bit of a flank route over here. You get to pick on a healer here. That's usually pretty strong. But a good amount of times, a good player, like the good players like the Widowmakers and Hanzos will be playing up here. Yeah, this is definitely a more offense-oriented map, though. I do feel like this section here is really easy to push. Yeah, every part of this factory is being used, whether you're up here because on defense trying to own that, or you're up here. Yeah, this middle section is definitely the best section of it all because then it leads us to our final section. Once you get the payload here, this little castle thing. And this area is like so interesting because I feel like it ends up becoming very difficult to defend here. You can just play around this wall, but that's about it. Everything else is like way more difficult to it's so much easier to push beyond this point until you get to the freaking castle. Like once you're in the castle here, you can hold this pretty freaking easily. You have so many options. Yeah, I love the way this map is designed. I think it looks gorgeous. Havana's kind of mid, you know? Like, there's nothing like that I'm like, oh my god, I love playing this section of the map. Oh my god, I really, really enjoy it. Oh my god, like amazing. Like, I don't think it's as cool. I'd probably put this one in C tier. Junkertown, oh my god. Do I even have to show you guys why I hate this map? So this is a very Widowmaker heavy map. Okay, this initial point is really... If they get past this initial choke here, which is very easy to do because it's not much cover going on, and Widowmaker has a million sight lines, because once you're past the choke point, there's literally no cover. And on defense, a Widowmaker can literally just tear house. Like, what do you do? This next section is really easy to defend. It's so much more close quarters. Widowmaker is still really good on this part because it's still like the sight lines are not bad. But if you get past this main choke point here, you get to the part that I know some people are probably going to hate me for this, but I really hate this internal part of Junkertown. It ends up becoming like this really frustrating section of a map sometimes, man. There's barely any cover anywhere. I know some people are really going to enjoy Junkertown because the aesthetic is cool, the lore is cool. I get that. I'm all about that. I think that does give it a little bit of extra points. But I think playing this map is just so frustrating because if you don't have a good Widowmaker, you're going to lose. I'm going to put this one in D tier. I really don't like Junkertown, and I'm sorry for all the Junkertown fans out there. I'm gonna get a lot of hate in the comments for this. But yeah. Rialto. This is one of the rare maps where getting booped in the beginning is like, so it happens a lot more often than not. Visually, really cool map. This choke point here ends up being where you're fighting a lot of 99% of the time. A lot of fights end up happening here at this choke point. And then once you get past the choke point, it's really difficult to defend. The beginning section is really good at Rialto. I do think it plays really well, and I love the fact that you can get booped in the beginning. You end up in this little area. you can't defend this part. You basically start defending here. So you end up playing a little bit back, trying to stop them from pushing beyond this point here. Once you get past to the end though, you get to this final section. And this final section is very similar to all the other final sections. You just get like this like internal, like it looks like Eichenwald to me almost type vibe. So aesthetically kind of basic, but in terms of gameplay, it plays exactly like you'd expect. Rialto is like B tier. Route 66, let's go! This initial part is so cool. Like the story behind this is really nice. There's a decent amount of flanking options through these little tunnels. The best players will end up like trying to hold the top of the gas station, you know? And then you end up in, I think the coolest part of Route 66, you have this pretty open area. So a lot of characters are really good here. Different strong high ground spots to be on. So this area, I feel like you end up seeing this area the most for like crazy plays and crazy ultimates. Factory has one of those things that I really enjoy that used to be on like Voskaya and stuff, like these little moving platforms. You're not really going to use these moving platforms that often, but it can lead to pretty cool like high noons and stuff, right? Most of the times though, the choke, you'll probably hold like this little section from this box to here, because it has a decent amount of like cover on both sides, or not cover, but like, you know, you can hold angles and stuff from the high ground and whatnot. Route 66, I think that Route 66 is probably like a solid A tier, just like flat A tier. I think every part of it has a different vibe each time. There's different ways. I don't feel like it's really one-sided on defense or offense. This feels like Nepal. Like the visuals are very similar to Nepal, and I really enjoy that. This point is so easy to hold, man. Like you have one choke, and yeah, I know you can flank a little bit, or yeah, you can flank a little bit, but it's like such a long flank. It has a lot of cool things going on though, like all those factories in the distance. You got a mixture of the monastery look and a mixture of like the modern look, which is really cool. One of the cool parts I like about it. You have to push the payload all the way through, up the mountains, up the rock, up again, all the way to here. So that one's a lot more close quarters. You're gonna see like Reapers, Junkrats, all these different close quarters characters get a lot more value. So the first section was pretty easy to defend. Second section, a little bit harder to defend. It's a little bit easier to push if you got like more of a close quarters type combat. Yeah, I don't have a song of opinion because I haven't played on this map as much as the other ones, but I will say that I don't feel like it. I feel like it has a lot of cool things going on for it, with the exception of that first point, which feels a little too long. I think the safest thing we can put here is like C+, B-. I think that's a fair thing to put the Shambali Monastery. I hate this map. I'm just gonna let you guys know ahead of time. I'm gonna spoil it ahead of time. In the beginning, a lot of times it's just such a dive heavy map the whole way through. But yeah, you fight up here. I think it's pretty easy on defense. You can hold this choke very easily. Yeah, it's just another factory. It's actually a hangar. I just don't like how like it feels like there's a million places that you can get shot from. But my least favorite section is actually the final section. I really don't like this final section here. I feel like you can get spawn camped here. It's one of the few places, it's one of the few times that you can actually get spawn camped on escort, which doesn't happen too often. I can't explain why I don't like this map, but every time I play on it, it just always feels like I go to like triple overtime, and it's just like, oh, why am I still on this map 25 minutes later? Please let me go home. C-. I'm gonna put C-. This map from a aesthetic perspective is beautiful. I hate that it's raining. Oh my god, it's so much better than the daytime because it feels like Disney World. Why are you making Disney World depressing? Yeah, if you get past the choke, you can end up here, and you can fight and then you can fight into the point. So here's the main point here. So hybrids are obviously like notorious for like having like this like really obvious spot that you have to defend. Yeah, this is one of the easier maps to defend in the beginning. If you capture, you're going through the whole park, which is really fun. But then we end up at like Eichenwald because we're at like the haunted manor, like the haunted house part. And this part kind of just feels like Eichenwald with the hole. It's like it's a castle, it's indoors, there's a big old hole that I don't know why a theme park would have a huge hole that you could die from, but you know. I do enjoy this map a lot. I think Blizzard World is really cool. I think its aesthetic alone is carrying it like crazy. I do think it plays very well too. But yeah, I would probably put this in A- tier. I think Blizzard World is fun. I think it's just that's the type of maps that I really enjoy. They're just like really fun. Oh god, this map is so good. This map used to suck, by the way. I want you guys to know that this door here did not exist. So the only way you got through was through this one choke point. I'm not even kidding. But after they fixed that door, this map became a lot better. The way that this payload works, it rams through doors and stuff, which is really fun. It's like you're basically pushing a battering ram to the final point. The story behind this is crazy. The Omnic uprising and stuff acting as cover is really cool. Every part of this map is used. Like this is a flanking route that some people can use as well. And you end up in a more dive heavy area because you have such a strong high ground. And here's where it can get really finicky, and like sometimes you can get stopped right here dead in your tracks. Yeah, a good soldier, a good sojourner, a good Ash can come up here, kind of wreak havoc, and it's really not fun. Thankfully there is options to get up there, but for the most part you can usually push to this choke point with relative ease. And once you get here, you would think like you're home free, but this bridge is so cool. You get Roadhogs booping you into the hole. You get Lucio's booping into the hole. You gotta watch out what you're doing on this bridge because it can be one of the scarier parts. Now we're into the part that I've been talking about earlier. There's the castle portion. It looks so cool in this castle. There's sections that you don't really use of this castle with the sword and the stone. I think that Eichenwald, now that they fixed a lot of its key issues, is S tier, not S plus. Not just gonna get the little horn noise. It's not S plus, no angels, but I think it's an S tier map. Ooh, Hollywood. When you spawn at the Chinese theater, which is so cool. Like, I'm from LA, so this is like pretty sick. Got these fancy restaurants with all these famous people in it. Like, the whole lore behind Hollywood is sick. And you're pushing a limo of a really famous like Omnic director and stuff, which is really cool. I enjoy Hollywood's first point. I think it's one of the few first points that are not terrible for hybrids. You end up in the set. It's a Hollywood set for a Western. So this kind of gives you that Route 66 vibe. And you definitely need to run dive in this section or like some type of verticality, because if someone's up here getting free reign, it's just not fun to deal with. I feel like it's not too difficult to defend, but you have to defend kind of differently than other maps, you know? But the final part of the map, you end up in this like space, this goofy space like movie set, you know? I genuinely enjoy this map a lot. I don't love it like to death, so I would probably put it in like A+. I think A+ is fair for Hollywood. Nah, you know what? S tier. Give me that horn noise. I think it's an S tier map. Guys, do I need to review it? This choke point, even though there's only one entrance, it's not that bad. Then you got the streets. The streets are incredible. You're fighting like crazy. Like, it just feels so dynamic. There's always fights in every corner, you know? But this is like the OG factory. Look at this factory. Look what's going on here, man. Do I even need to review it, guys? You already know that King's Row. Do you hear that? Do you hear the sounds of the angels? S plus. We're going to MIDTOWN. Its rating is in its name. It's cool that New York finally got its representation, but this area here is so weird to defend. Sometimes you have people defending here, but then everyone just runs right through the middle. So you have to fight on this like awkward subway. First section, okay. The first section is okay. Then we get to the second section. There's like the streets, you got the stop sign, you got 42nd Street and Union. Then you get to this last section, which is like the Union Station. I love the theme, I love that it's Union Station, but I feel like it's really not too, there's not much going on. You just push the payload past like some newspaper stands and then you're there. I'm honestly gonna say B tier for this one. Guys, where the hell's Numbani gonna be, dude? Oh, Numbani, man. Oh my god, I love Numbani. It's so fun. Numbani is so cool. This initial point is you have to run dive on this initial point. Yeah, I like this first section a lot. This first section I think is really cool. It requires dive. I'm not saying you need dive. It's just saying like dive is definitely preferred on this section here. Then you push this like section here, and I actually don't mind this section. You get decent fights happening usually right here. This ends up being also a very like vertical section where you get a lot of people fighting from the top. But then you get to the part that I like the least, because you get to this choke point here. This choke you can actually hold pretty well. Like as a team, you can like end up holding this section. Like it's not too difficult to hold this section. Overall, Numbani, man, I missed it. Numbani is freaking cool, man. I would say A tier. I think A tier is good. A tier for Numbani. Oh, snap. Big points for the big Jesus. This first point is not great though. I don't love how this first point plays. I feel like it's a steamrolling section here. Like it's not that easy to defend. I don't think I've ever successfully defended this first point. But once you get past the first point, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more dynamic. Because you get these cool streets with the favelas and stuff, which leads to some insane vertical areas that you can be on. And I feel like it's not too hard to push on offense, in all honesty, either. And then you end up in another factory again. Like, it's always a factory, you guys. They can't get over their factories. It's not a factory. It's actually a dance club, right? This place is not too bad because you have a lot of different options of which way you can go as an offensive player. Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful looking map. I love Lucio. All my homies love Lucio. I think it's a pretty cool, but it does feel like a recolor of the Dorado factory. I'm gonna have to agree with you on that. B-? I think like B- is fair for Pariso. So Colosseo is a push map. It has this beautiful roam thing that you fight. You barely fight in it, but like it's part of it. I genuinely think this push map plays pretty cool because you have to push to this section area here, and it's very windy. So it feels like even if they push pretty far, you still have a pretty on defense. You have a pretty solid advantage to be able to stop them from pushing. I'd probably put Colosseo for a push map solidly an A tier. I think it's an A tier map. Esperanza. I'm gonna level with you guys. I don't like this map. I don't like this map that much. I don't like that you can fight on this like weird high ground thing. This middle section here is not that bad. It's not that bad of a middle section, but it's this section over here that I really despise. This section just feels so hard to play on. And the final stretch just feels so easy to defend. I feel like defenders have a decent advantage here, but like, yeah, this is a very one-sided map. You can either steamroll really easily or you can defend really easily and make a really annoying comeback that you don't deserve. Yeah, this is so mid. This map is beyond mid. Esperanza, more like Esperan C tier. The final one is New Queen Street. It's Canada. Oh boy, eh? Middle section, pretty solid. I actually really enjoy this middle section here. I feel like fighting here is not hard. It's this section over here that I don't like. This section over here and the second point, I feel like it's a little too easy to push through with this. Not much options for the defending team. And once you get to the end, oh my god, if you get past this choke, you're usually gonna win. Like if you got ultimates stored up, you can definitely get to the end pretty easily. You got this section here that I do like. I do like that you can like basically speedrun like your way to the next point by like taking like these shortcuts and stuff. But I feel like it's not windy enough, so you can get like destroyed on defense. I like this map more than the other ones, than the previous one we just discussed, only because I love my Canadian viewers. B tier. Thank you so much for watching. That was my map tier list. If you want to make your own tier list in the comment section down below, please do so. What is your favorite map in Overwatch, and what is your least favorite map in Overwatch? For me, it was probably, honestly, I think ILIOS is my favorite map, and my least favorite map is probably Junkertown. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for vibing. If this becomes a video, play the outro now.